Hi students, this is the continuation of proxy design pattern. Now coming to the implementation section. Here the proxy design pattern can exploit the following language features. Here the first one is overloading the member access operator in C++. Already we know advanced data structures C++. It supports overloading operator tends to the member access operator. So here the overloading this operator lets you perform additional work whenever an object is dereferenced. So this can be very helpful for implementing some kinds of proxy. So the proxy behavior just like a pointer, okay. It is the very useful implementation. The first one is overloading the member access pointer in C++. Now we are studying the second one, that is nothing but using does not understand. We are using does not understand in small talk. In the sense, when we are going to small talk language, it provides a hook that you can use to support automatic forwarding of request. Okay, automatic forwarding of request. So small talk calls does not understand a message even when a client sends a message to a receiver that has no corresponding method. So the proxy class can redefine does not understand so that the message is forwarded to its subject. Okay, so finally, to make sure that a request is forwarded to the subject and not just absorbed by the proxy silently. So if you can define a proxy class that does not understand any messages, simply a small talk language. So let's you do this by defining proxy as a class with no superclass. In the sense, the implementation of distributed in next step uses this technique. It refines forwards the equivalent hook in next step. So to make sure that the main disadvantage of does not understand is that most small talk systems have a few special messages that are very handled directly by the virtual machine, and these do not cause the usual method lookup. So the only one that's usually implemented in objects. So can you affect proxies server is the identity operation is equal to. So if you are going to use does not understand, we need to implement proxy design pattern, then you must design around this problem. You can't expect identify on proxies. That means we need to identify on the real subject. An added disadvantage is that does not understand was developed for error handlings, not for building proxies, and so it's a generally not very fast nowadays. Okay, and coming to the third one, that is nothing but third implementation. Proxy does not always have to know the type of real subject real subject. In the sense, if a proxy class can deal with its subject solely through an abstract interface, then there is no need to make a proxy class for each real subject class. So the proxy can deal with all real subject classes uniformly. So if proxies are going to instantiate real subjects, then they have to know what is the concrete class. A concrete class is a class that contains, we need to implementation for all these methods. Another implementation issue involves how to refer to the subject point of view before it's instantiated. So some proxies have to refer to their subjects whether it's on a disk or data or in a memory or not. So they must use some form of address space independent object identifiers. So here another implementation we may involve how to refer to the subject before it's instantiated, and some proxies have to refer to their subject whether it's on disk or in memory. So that means they must use some form of address space independent object identifiers. So we need to use a file name for this purpose in the motivation section. And coming to the noun uses, what are the best examples of proxy design pattern in the real world system we are using there? The virtual proxy, we see in ET++ text building block classes virtual proxy. It's one of the best example in the motivation section is from the ET++ text building block classes, already we've seen. The next step here, we are uses proxies, a local representatives for objects that may be distributed. So a server, yes, a proxy server creates proxies for remote objects when clients request them. On receiving a message, the proxy server encodes it along with its arguments and then forwards the encoded message to the remote subject. So finally the subject encodes any written results and sends them back to the NX proxy object. And coming to the last one, MC Kuloff, what he discussed using proxy servers in small talk, we need to access remote objects. And coming to the Pasco, it describes how to provide side effects on method calls and access control with encapsulation or encapsulators. Okay, and coming to the what are the related patterns of proxy design pattern? Related design patterns, what are the very related to this proxy design pattern? Adapter, decorator and iterator. Adapter pattern, we need to adapt from one interface to convert another interface. Okay, provides a different interfaces to the object, how it adapts. Proxy used here for access protection might refuse to perform an operation that the subject will perform. So its intermediary acts as an interface, may be very effectively a subset of the subjects. And coming to the decorator section, we are adding some extended functionality dynamically. It can have some similar, in the sense the same implementations as proxies. We need to add one or more responsibilities to an object, whereas proxy controls access to an object. So protection proxy might be implemented exactly like a decorator. Yes. And coming to the next key point, remote proxy will not contain a direct reference to its real subject. Remote proxy will not contain a direct reference to its real subject, but only an indirect reference. And coming to the virtual proxy, will start off with an indirect reference. Virtual proxy will start off with an indirect reference. And coming to the iterator design pattern, it describes another kind of proxy. All classes have objects. Yes, exactly, all classes have objects as their super classes. Okay, the iterator must and should follow this related design pattern. It is very related to a proxy design pattern. Up to now, completed the third unit. If you have any doubts regarding the remaining patterns, can you please contact me. Thank you one and all.